Okay. And today's presentation, something that I chose to present today are post-pandemic business models in tourism, because I see that actually pandemic has a lot of negative, but also some positive influences, because we switched to online wherever we could. So actually, these changes had a lot of effect on tourism. So firstly, I'll briefly explain what are the business models in general, and then I'll give some examples from the tourism sector, and then I'll focus on some of the changes, not only in business model but in some processes that influence some changes in business models caused by pandemic. And lastly, I'll give some examples of some successful business models in tourism.
That sounds great. Excellent. Excellent. I really like this because it brings together your past presentations, and now I think it's going to give us some tangible specific tools, actions that all of our students around the world can take to participate in this interesting industry and opportunity. Excellent. Thank you, Irena.
Yes, that's right. Oh, you're welcome, Ricardo. I'm very happy that I chose also some topics that students are interested in. And yes, it's true that it's everything that I talked in my first two sessions. So today's session we'll just continuing in the same direction. So we are here discussing some hot topics around the world. So I will try to be as fast as possible, because I realized when I had Spanish session that almost I was speaking for almost 1 hour. So actually, because this is very broad topic, so I'll try now to be to shorter the presentation, so actually that we can have time for discussion. So the first one about business models. Well, business models can be defined as a comprehensive analytical framework that explains how some specific actors, like entrepreneurs, firms, or collaborative networks, create, capture, and disseminate value. So in other words, it is actually the way that explain how companies make profit, and actually that is why we want to start any business. Of course, first thing is we want to make a profit. So, for example, the business model, if we talk about tourism, is to attract tourists and to sell tourism products and services. So, to be able to do this, we need to know who our target group is and what tourists value. So without value creation, that is the first one. So in this definition, to create value, we wouldn't have businesses at all. So it's a fundamental part of each organization, and also it's important for businesses, but for customers as well. Because businesses they need value creation because they need to be competitive in the market, and consumers, okay, they need value creation because they want to buy some products that they need in everyday life, or for example in tourism, something that they want to enjoy, or they want to buy some souvenirs. They also buy services in tourism, not only products. So that was about value creation. The second thing is value capture. So value capture, that means that businesses they retain some percentage of the value provided in each transaction. So, for example, it can be 10% of the transaction, or 15 or 20, but usually it's I think it's 10 or even sometimes less. So it's value capture is really, we can say that it's tricky, because you need to capture enough value so that your business is worth of your time and all your investments. So here we can have two dominant philosophies, like maximization and minimization. Maximization is to capture as much value as possible, and minimization is completely the opposite, to capture as little value as possible. So if you want, for example, to start a business, and if you want to have some short-term revenues, then maximization would be your strategy. But if you want some long-term success and long-term profits, so that you should opt for minimization philosophy. So of course, it's always good to create as much value as possible. So actually, that it's so that it is to make it worthwhile and to keep operating. Dissemination strategies means like on spreading knowledge. So it can be across different geographical locations or even different networks. In tourism, these are tourists, for example. So how we are going to spread everything that we have in our company in different markets, and to attract different tourists, so to attract our target market. So business models, we can say that they consist of two parts. First are all activities that are related with making something, and secondly, it's all the activities that are associated with selling something. So when we make something, we design it, we purchase raw materials, we manufacture, and when we sell, we want to find our customers. We want to do a transaction, to distribute the product, or to deliver the service. So actually, when we start our business, we can choose two directions. Do we want to make some product or to offer some service that is completely new on the market, or we want to do some kind of innovation of the existing products and services? So that is how, at the beginning, we should choose our business model. And that is the same for all industries. Here we have a business model canvas. It's Alexander Osterwalder's business model, and it's very popular, and it's really a model that is really worth doing this at the beginning when you start your business. Never mind if you want to introduce completely new product, or you want to innovate, to make innovation of the existing products and services. So this business model canvas consists of nine building blocks. These are important to analyze at the beginning, so that in the end you will have successful business model. So the first thing, I will start from customers, from the target group. So the first are customer segments. So it has two stages. It has front stage and backstage. Of course, front stage is something that we do with customers, and backstage are all the processes that we do in order to produce products and to offer services. So something that customers can see. So that at the beginning we can ask ourselves, what is the value that I'm creating? Who I'm creating the value for? Is it some mass market or some niche market, some specific segments of the market? So you need to really know who your customers are. After that, there are value propositions. So value propositions is some problem that you want to solve. So actually, why you are doing the thing that the business that you're doing. So what problem are you aiming to solve? So that is closely related to customers. So analysis at this stage is crucial for business success later. And so between value propositions and customer segments, we have two blocks. We have customer relationships, and we also have channels. So customer relationships means how will you get your customers? How will you grow your customer base? But not only to grow, it's also important to keep the existing customers. So when you do any business, your main purpose would be to retain the existing customers, because that is the best way how you can gain success. So also, which means of communication will be applied is also a question that you should ask yourself. After that, we have channels. So that means, how are you going to reach your customers? That means what channels are you going to use? Some traditional or virtual. So today, of course, as virtual channels are really the most important, like websites, social media. Of course, it's something without which it's almost impossible to be successful in any business. The next thing are key resources. So what is something that your value propositions require? What are these key resources that we need for our value propositions? So it can be some physical resources. It can be some these can be some human resources. So actually, it depends on the industry, and it's something without which you cannot run your business. So it's really a key resource. So when we have key resources, we have also key activities. So what key activities are important for our value proposition? So the type of activity, of course, will depend on your business model and, of course, on the industry. After that, we have some key partners. So who are key partners? Do we need key partners from beginning, or we will need key partners in some later stages of our business? So remember that it's not always important to have some key partners from beginning, but of course it's always good if you have cooperation with other businesses, if you have some strategic partnerships. So that means that you have more chances to be successful on the market. And then we have cost structure and revenue streams. Cost structure, like what are the most important costs in your business models? How you can reduce your costs, but also increase revenue, so that these are good business models. So you always need to find a balance and to reduce cost as much as possible, and of course at the same time to increase value. So about revenue streams, so that is what actually our customers are really, what do they want to pay? So it's if you offer some completely new product or new service, you need really to be sure, will there be enough customers that are ready to pay for that product or service? Also, how are you going to make payments? Will it be like online or not? Will you, for example, start with some profit-making business or some non-governmental organization also? So from beginning, you need to decide actually the direction of your business. So this is a business model canvas that actually has been researched a lot in the academic journals. So there are a lot of really useful articles that you can find about this business model canvas, and it's really something that works in practice. What's the most important thing? So remember, if you want to start your business, remember this business model canvas, because it really can help you to be successful, whatever type of industry you want to work, whatever business that you want to start. So of course, what always we ask, is there any winning business model? How will I know that my business will be successful? Well, there are variations and variations of business models, of course, because there are different companies. Companies have been constantly evolving. So there are different business models that are adapted, that have been constantly adapting to changes on the market, and of course all over the world. So of course, it is crucial to monitor the competition. You need to know who is your competition. You're not alone on the market. So actually, if you don't analyze your competition, most probably you will experience a failure of your business. So of course, in the analysis, competition is one of the crucial points. And of course, if you have business models that are completely different to competition, it may lead to failure. Why? Because it's completely new. You don't know, you don't have any other examples, positive or negative, successful or not successful. So you need to be careful. If you want to introduce something really new, then you need to do a deep analysis to know whether or not you have enough target group, enough customers from the target group. And of course, you need always to try to create a competitive advantage, especially when you want to start something that exists on the market. So that is the analysis of the competition, what they are doing, what are their prices, the quality of products. You can even see how many products they sell periodically, per a month or per year. So you need to find as many information as possible, so that finally you're able to create a competitive advantage. You cannot create that from start, but you should aim to create that as soon as possible. And of course, there are a lot of advantages and disadvantages of business models. The first advantage is, as I mentioned, that you create a competitive advantage. So you have a strong reputation, for example, on the market, and you know where your investments are going to. So that means you need to direct your investments so that they go to the right place. But actually, when we talk about disadvantages, that means once you choose your business model, sometimes it's difficult to do some kind of adaptations or some changes in the processes, in the existing processes. So these are some disadvantages, but of course, even the disadvantages exist, you should opt for the right business model for your business. Here is one example of the Ryanairs business model. So actually, what they did before, I mean, during 1980s. So that is their first business model, where they were competitive in their industry, but actually they couldn't gain so much profit, so like as they wanted. So the airline was forced to redesign the business model because they had high quality. They had like first-rate customer service, so everything was excellent. But actually, something was not. They realized that something was not working as they wished. So they were forced to redesign their business model. And what they did, they became a low-cost airline company. So it offers now low fixed. They have low fixed costs. So that is what was their aim, to lower fixed costs. So it's important in every business. If you have high fixed costs, it's really very difficult. It's not impossible, but it's very difficult to be successful. But if you lower fixed costs, then you will be able to capture that value that it's important for your business. So Ryanair decided to completely change their business model to become a low-cost airline company. Their target group are now young and leisure travelers. They use a lot of word of mouth advertising, but actually they have really, really cheap prices, and everything that you need to pay additionally. If you want luggage, okay, you will pay. There is some cost for luggage that you need to pay. So when you buy a flight ticket, you buy only a flight ticket without anything, without any food, without any drinks. So everything that you buy, it's additional. So that means that they have low fixed costs, and also in that way they earn more. I'm not sure if it's really beneficial for customers, because in my own opinion, I really use low-cost airline companies only in the case where I have to, where there is no other option. But that is their business model that really works. So for the last 20 years, they have been operating really successfully on the market. So let's see what is the impact of the pandemic on tourism if we compare the years 2020 and 2019. And of course, this is something that I talked more in my second presentation, but now just briefly, that 62 million jobs were lost. There was a 5% decrease of global GDP, also $4.9 trillion loss, and international tourist arrivals were decreased. So we had like 1.1 billion tourists less than in the year 2019. So all of this forced all tourism firms to innovate and to try to find solution to overcome all the problems that pandemic caused. Of course, it was impossible to talk about tourism when actually people had to stay in their houses. They even could not go anywhere in places where they live. But actually, some companies really use this. So some virtual travels, let's say like that, started. So they offered a lot of different opportunities that actually technology gives us a lot. It's just on us how much we are going to use. So how can business models in tourism survive a global crisis like COVID-19? So there are some changes. For example, in the hospitality industry. So this is one paper that was published in the year 2021, and it was exactly published when pandemic was not over in that period. So all the changes are something that happened during the pandemic. So how hotels adapted their offers. So it was in three ways: value proposition, value chain, and revenue model. So we have some changes in the hospitality industry. Like, for example, hotels were used as rooms or offices during a lockdown, so that hotels used their room for maybe some people who had to work from home, but actually maybe did not have like right conditions. So they offered some peaceful places where they could work during lockdown. So that was how they earned money during the lockdown. So that change in the business model. Also, they had some new and innovative products and services. So of course, it was everything to adapt to current business, to the current situation on the market. So, for example, as I mentioned, they started offering virtual tours. So that was one way that people were at their homes, and they had plenty of time and they could start investigating some destinations. new destinations. Also, for example, they to maintain the distance, they started the process of check-in and check-out on their apps, so everything was completely online, so that they minimized that direct contact between people. So that is about the offer of digital services. So also reservations were made online. So everything, technology really helped us a lot during the pandemic. Also, use of hotels as quarantine facilities. So that was something that that was like many countries where actually people were allowed to travel. They should stay 7 or 14 days in some specific places. So hotels were used as places for these people if they had to be quarantined. The next one is about value chain. So first, there are changes to safety measures, like new protocols, also some kind of certifications were introduced as well. And all of that was to keep guests safe and healthy. So that was the most important thing that attracted people who could travel to travel. So if they were safe, and then they would have decided to travel to that place or stay in a particular hotel. Also, the next thing is changes to capacity. So that was good that they increased their the quality of their services, because when they couldn't book all their rooms because of that distance, that had to physical distance that had to be between people. So they could increase the quality that is quite good. I'm also always for that, to increase the quality as much as possible. Also, some changes to work volume. This is something that they needed to, for example, a lot of employees were made redundant, so or they worked from home. Also, some people even worked reduced hours. So these were some changes in work volume. When we talk about revenue model, there was more promotion of domestic tourism, so that people actually started traveling in their countries, started investigating what is in their surroundings, so that they focused more on domestic tourism than on the international, like it was before COVID. Also, there was some flexibility to cancel or change trips. That was something that really had to be done, because we couldn't know what measures were going to be introduced. So of course, it was important to have flexibility to cancel or to change trips, and of course, increased quality and individualization of services. So this was some kind. Also here, virtual travel came to the fore. So it helped to reduce mass tourism and to focus more on customers as on tourists as individuals. So that relationships were changed in favor of customers. So these are some changes during the pandemic and in the hospitality industry. So in business models in the hospitality industry. What also is important to mention, that there are some changes in consumer trends. So when we talk about these changes, we also need to take into account consumer trends at the global level and also at the local level. Depends if we focus on international or on local and or domestic tourism. Also, these changes do not necessarily have to be reflected in a change in a complete business model, but actually they can show us which direction it is necessary to to develop our business in the future. So they can help us to change some processes and of course to adapt better to changes on the market and to ensure success. So some global trends. The first one is closer. That means that domestic tourism is on the rise, and we have some new term here as this is staycations. So actually people stay in some places near the place where they live. Also, what is very good, so when I talked about positive effects of the pandemic, even though we are always focused on negative things, we should always look for some positive things. This one is really, really positive, more responsible. So creating a positive impact on local communities. Actually, I think that a lot of people increase their awareness of how we should behave when we travel, and we started to value more nature and everything that is related to nature. So with this is related the third global change, and this is getaway. That means that the interest in nature and rural tourism increased. So actually it happened that maybe people who preferred mass tourism, going to the seaside, you know, the famous 3S, sea, sun and sand. So actually they converted in rural tourists or tourists who prefer to stay in nature and to have that contact with nature and even with local communities. Another thing that is another change or trend that is completely different than it was before the pandemic are longer stays. So longer stays and higher spending per trip. Actually, we know that by time people are traveling more, people travel more and they prefer shorter vacations. But during pandemic, what happened that people started to travel longer. So something completely different, maybe because they traveled within their own countries, so they didn't spend so much time maybe to travel to some other far away destinations that are far away from their countries. Here there is one very interesting academic paper that was published last year about novel digital business model configurations. So we need to know that technology is really our best friend in the period of post-pandemic, because this impact of digitalization caused that we have 10 completely novel business model configurations in the travel industry. So only when we look at the travel industry, these authors found 10 completely new business models. So the first one are meta booking platforms. So these platforms help tourists to find the cheapest price. So for the same products and services. So they work in a way that they compare different fares and different prices of different suppliers. So actually they show tourists the best option. One example is Omio. You can, of course, I gave him some, I just put some examples here so that if you are interested, you can just later take a look and see how all of them work. So you can find websites. So Omio and Reservamos are two that offer like tickets for different transportation suppliers. The second innovation in business models are this club or small niche. That means that these are companies that have membership or subscribers. So subscribers pay some, for example, monthly or yearly subscription, and these companies offer some specific tours, for example. And you have here Eclipse Traveling. So they offer some tours that are specifically to observe eclipses. So that means that they focus on a really, really small niche. So if some of you maybe want to start some business, so to have really new startup business, you should focus on some small niche. So that is that target group that, for example, you want to offer something that is really specific to your to the place where you live, and to use this what you have. So you see that the idea of Eclipse Traveling is really something that works in practice. So even though maybe you think that, oh, there are not so many people who are interested in this, but actually there are. The next one is custom content. So that means that there is always a growing need to have digital content. So that means in the form of text, photos, videos, augmented reality, virtual reality as well. So there are so many good examples how augmented and virtual reality can be used in tourism. The fourth one is on the go or mobile first. So as the name says, mobile first, they use mainly mobile applications. So Hotel Tonight is one example of the on the go business model. So they have, for example, they always they always know where the customers are, where is their location. So actually they can offer some personalized services, and that is that individualization that is really valued high after the pandemic. Affiliate network is, for example, collaboration between different parts, like travel bloggers or any suppliers, so that they have a kind of collaboration, and they offer some specific specific information and about different tours and whatever the company offers. Next one are travel connection platforms. So travel connection platforms, like, for example, Travelport. So they have a large number of offers. They compare different offers. They connect different stakeholders, and they have only one search engine. So that is also something that's particularly important for people who want to find specific information. After that, we have analytics and connections. So companies have different channels in these business models. So they, for example, organize different events for professionals in the industry. So they offer services indirectly. They don't offer direct services. So it's also another way of innovative business models. Expense management, that is the configuration that actually they motivate people, tourists, to spend less. So if they spend less, they give them some kind maybe some discount, or actually whatever they want, some vouchers. So it's important also to travel in sustainable manner. So actually, if you reduce your costs as a tourist, you can get some additional discounts. So that's also one way how we can motivate people to be sustainable, and when they travel, to really behave in a sustainable manner. The next one is no win, no fee. This is really related to the directly related to the pandemic, because many, for example, flights were canceled, and there are companies that gain commission only if customers win. So that means that the customers need to appeal, and if they win, companies will get some profit and some commission. The last one is edification. So as the name says, it works. It is aimed at educating travelers. This is really important when we talk about problems in sustainability, and how could we force and motivate people to opt for sustainable travel options. So these are some changes related to business models that these were really very interesting for me when I was deciding actually what I'm going to present, because all of them are really successful, and you can get a lot of ideas from these examples in the travel industry. Another also very good paper is about innovation practices of tourism, small and medium enterprises, because 80% of tourism companies are small and medium enterprises. So this was one paper that was the investigation, the research was done in Mexico. So the authors found that, for example, changes and improvements in the web is something that is like very presented, and now also interviewees mentioned this like the most important change that they did, and that they plan to continue with these innovations also after in the post-pandemic period. So you see how technology is important, especially digital channels. Other innovations that innovation practices include digital thermal detectors, e-commerce, training, QR code, home office work licenses, and software. So you see that all of them are related to technology. Training also, because there are online trainings. So you see that technology is really something that we should be aware, and that we should know how to use it, how to use all the advantages of the technology. So overall, after the pandemic, when we talk about post-pandemic business models, these are mainly sustainable business models. Even before the COVID-19, sustainable business models were the subject of study in the tourism literature, but mainly after the post-pandemic, I think there will be more and more really good academic articles. So what we need to find? We need to find the balance between short and long-term objectives, like as I mentioned at the beginning, with the two philosophies like maximization and the minimization. So we should know what is our aim, short-term or long-term success. Of course, it should be long-term success, but we need to find a balance between these two. The next thing is commercialization. Of course, here I don't think on the mass tourism. This is mainly related to tourists who, for example, were interested in city tourism, so they shifted to rural areas. So we have more people that want to connect with nature, that want to spend time in nature, so that if we want to offer something, okay, we should take into account definitely this factor. Another thing that some countries in Europe introduced. And I know for Spain that in Spain it was introduced at the beginning of this year. It's digital nomad visa. So these are some visa benefits for digital nomads, even though these are not some regular tourists that like some kind, the definition of a tourist that we know. Countries that offer digital nomad visa, they offer, for example, people who work remotely to stay in the countries and to have visa for maybe first 1 year, 2 years, and then they can extend that visa for like up to 5 years. I think it's now in Spain. So they really motivate people to travel and to work like wherever place that they feel comfortable. And the last one is interregional travel, so that we know with these really strict procedures in the era of COVID-19, interregional travel also was people were encouraged to travel within different regions. For example, in the Canary Islands, residents here, we have a discount of 75% on flight tickets, and also on ferry tickets if we want to travel to some other islands in the Canaries, or if we want to travel to Spain. So actually, this is a really important motivational factor for people who live in some remote areas, so that they are encouraged to travel. They have certain benefits. Even though this was also before the pandemic, this can be used as a really good example, like for maybe Caribbean islands. That's also, that don't have that terrestrial connection, where the people need to go by plane or by ferry, so that they are encouraged to travel more. And the last thing that I want to mention is one example of the Mind Hotel in the Tenerife. So that is innovative, transformative, sustainable, and people-centric. So this is a hotel that they have actually three hotels they have in 3 different islands here, in the Tenerife, in Lanzarote, and Fuerteventura. So the hotel is completely sustainable. They use solar panels. They even have their own vegetable garden, but they also support local suppliers, because almost all suppliers are locals. They also have some other kind of innovations, like sustainable innovations, for example, LED lighting, free water fountains for guests. It's also pet-friendly hotel, and they work on developing CO2 calculators. So that is something that they want to introduce this completely a new process, so that they can measure carbon dioxide per each guest. So that's really one step towards a completely sustainable model. And also they have one very good thing that they introduced, that is, don't throw in the towel for the planet. So they cooperate with the environmental charity Foresta, and for example, in the year 2022, they, for example, for every towel that guests decided not to wash, they decided to reuse. Actually, they gave 20 cents to this environmental charity, and then they planted trees. So that is one really good initiative. So this reduction in towel washing, so it lowers electricity consumption, it lowers water consumption, it has less pollution. So that really there are a lot of benefits for all. So this with this example, I will end my session for today, and I will open the part for discussion. If you have any questions, or of course, if you want to share some good examples with us, positive, negative, we are here to hear you.
Thank you, Irena. That was an excellent presentation. And I just think back to when you talked about the eclipse tourism, that it's such a niche kind of thing that you wouldn't think of. And, you know, with all of our students from around the world and the ones participating in tomorrow's ceremony, I think we have more than 60 countries represented.
Oh.
And, you know, every single location has so many unique things that could be a niche tourism. And it's just limited by the imagination of the locals to be able to communicate the local beauty, the local event that might be happening. I mean, you know, if you're near a waterfall, for example, you know, you might, you know, you go to the waterfall twice a year or something like that, but other people don't know that that waterfall exists. And maybe, you know, maybe during the rainy season, that waterfall swells to like double the size. And there could be a niche tourism in basically inviting people to come see the waterfall that, you know, 10 days a year that it's double, triple the size. Or when there's some type of a migration of animals, whether it's like butterflies or anything, you know, that might happen in nature, and you're aware of it, you know. I mean, I remember when I was a kid in Ixtapa, Mexico, there was this a particular days in the summer that these giant crabs, we call them jaibas, and it almost seemed like the waves, instead of being water, they were full of crabs. And we would go and grab as many crabs as we could. And I mean, wow, I remember my grandparents had, you know, crab soup for weeks. But man, I could imagine that being a super amazing tourist attraction for that place in Ixtapa. I don't think anybody knows that that happens there. But and how many things like that happen, you know, locally to us, or places that are nearby us. And if we can communicate that, that would be part of a potential entrepreneurial business model. Some students commented the problem with infrastructure in their local areas. And yes, it's a huge obstacle, but I think if you have those limitations in transportation, it opens up the opportunity for small businesses or private sector to facilitate some of those things. So excellent. I think everybody can create something from what you've shared with us today, if they wish. Let me see.
I will be really happy if that happens. So yes, as you say, if they wish, of course they can use everything they hear, not only that I shared, but from also other sources of information. So just there need to be a will, and of course, as you said, we from just a waterfall we can make a tourist attraction. So everything can be a tourist attraction, even that example with crabs. That is something that that I really haven't heard earlier. So it's quite good.
I have some friends, Irena, who are going. You probably heard of this one. In Puerto Rico, there's a very famous bay where right now, it's a specific week, the plankton is it's bioluminescent. So when you stick your hand in the surface of the ocean water, it lights up. It's like an aurora borealis underwater. So it's like bluish and greenish, and it's actually lights because the plankton or whatever animals are there, they light up the entire water, and it's amazing. You can see videos of this online. Another thing could be like blooms. Like there's places that have plants that have incredible blooms, at a very specific time. And so, wow, I'd love to see students, if you guys have any questions, maybe is there some local attraction that you think should be internationally known? This is an opportunity to share it either on your social media or create a web page to create information about it. It creates local jobs, local opportunity. Who can share some unique thing that happens in their city, in their state, in their region, that should have more international appeal and knowledge? Oh, I see Steve. How are you, Steve? Good to see you. Thank you for participating. Not yet, not yet. Well, Steve connects his microphone. I wanted to read a comment from Jeremiah Miguel. He said, the global pandemic, the first of its scale in a new era of interconnectedness, has put 100 million jobs at risk, many in micro, small, and medium-sized enterprise that employ high share of women, who represent 54% of tourism workforce, according to United Nations World Tourism Organization. Yes, a lot of far-flung places had several years where they were barely surviving. Yes, that was a big challenge. Steve, we'll keep trying. Please don't give up on your microphone. And I see Bartholomew Jean. How are you? Good evening.
Hi, how are you?
Excellent. Great to see you.
Yeah, me too. Just thank you for this presentation. I would like to add something. I'm from Burkina Faso, and we are poor in many areas, but regarding to human being relationship, we are good at this. And
Excellent.
in my country, we have many festivals. One of them is FESPACO, which is about African movies celebration. We have African handicraft biannual celebration, and others artistic and how to say it, and cultural activities, which can bring people, lot of people in my country, but unfortunately, we don't look sufficiently at this. And I have seen somebody asking, what about poor infrastructure and logistics in the countries? This can be a limitation to our side, but we can invest so that at many areas, hotels, airport, and so that over facilities, so that people will come and be happy to enjoy together. Thank you.
Thank you, Bartholomew. Yes, I mean, when you have a trip that should take 20 minutes and it takes 2-3 hours, I mean, it's hard to make it welcoming. But I think, it only depends on the creativity. Maybe along the way, there could be some amazing scenic stops, or maybe there's a famous location. So, if a tourist is going to that city that's got bad transportation, maybe there can be some stops along the way that would be kind of like almost like a free tour, and that would encourage people to do that. But thank you so much, Bartholomew, for the contribution and for sharing that. Bozzalano, how are you?
I'm good. I'm good.
Excellent. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you. And this is the topic I love. And I've been lamenting there on the chat that when we are supposed to be enjoying the local tourism, in our case, it was the most miserable time. I should have enjoyed staying right here at home. So I belong to two worlds, the civilized world of the United States of America and my country here, Botswana. And I love tourism as an environmentalist. But I realized that here at home, we've got so many tourist attractions, but they're inaccessible because we don't make, like you have just described, a very long journey by the gentleman who was making his comment just recently. And that is what we face. We've got sand dunes. I know in Namibia, they have access to the sand dunes and it's so beautiful. Some people leave our country to go and enjoy the sand dunes, but the ones in Botswana is so hard to get to. We've got falls, like in my village, we've got little mountain falls. I went there when I was the pre-COVID era, I think maybe it was 6 years ago. Oh my goodness, I could not access the beautiful paths because, you know, it's for young people. You got to crawl on your knees and what. So lots of our places are accessible. Lots of our places have been designed for rich tourists who can fly in and enjoy what they want and then go back. Yes, I used to understand the concept of low, high value, something like low something. Yes, but still, during this pandemic, I realized that I know that my country has so many beautiful features, but the fact that they are not accessible was a cause of frustration. So I'm just wondering, you know, when I'm looking at the presenter smile, I can see that at home, tourism is something to admire. I only enjoy myself when I'm in the US. I'm prepared to pay to see the canyons because everything is arranged so nicely. You can access almost everything. So I just wonder where we should push this side, because I think in my observation, we have neglected the infrastructure in these areas. So when it came to local, now time for local tourism, it was really hard. Very hard.
I mean, maybe the local government or, you know, a local grassroots organization can be formed to, you know, something that says, you know, maybe a growth of tourism in my city, and you can do a foundation that you attract fellow business owners in the area, and you can do a kind of a study saying, okay, what would happen if we had a road to access this feature or this natural beauty? What would be the cost of the road financed over 30 years, let's say, hypothetically, right? And then what would be the potential revenue if instead of having, you know, maybe you can measure how many visitors go to these locations that you're familiar with, Botsalano, and you can kind of guesstimate or estimate, do a study of, okay, how much revenue does that bring to the area? And then if that were to be increased, because instead of just rich tourists being able to fly in, you would have a combination of those tourists with local tourists coming from the different cities, maybe traffic would increase, you know, 10 times or 20 times. And that would more than pay for road infrastructure, security, everything that's necessary to make it sustainable. And if it's not just by yourself, but if it's with kind of a group of like-minded people, I think maybe the local government could pay more attention. Maybe you could get even international infrastructure grants, and we would be happy to help you to structure a grant proposal. So once you have certain ideas, like the goal, certain data points, we can help structure that into a grant proposal, and then research, okay, what are some international organizations who would fund something like that, or if not, also submit it to the local government in parallel.
Thank you.
No, my pleasure. Thank you. We have 2 more hands up. I just wanted to mention Steve. Steve, what he wanted to share, just some mic difficulties, was he said that he's right next to Puerto Rico, and that there's approximately 20,000 visitors per day at that, what we're talking about, the 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 bioluminescent plankton at night that happens for like a week or two each year. So thank you for sharing that. Duku, Martin.
Hi.
How are you? Great to see you.
I'm good. Thank you. Just a contributions. I think in my country also we are facing the similar issues on access issues to these tourist centers. Looking at the context, Sudan context, this is a blessed country that it has everything. And the only challenges we face, these are only access. Investors will be interested to go and and run out their project, but because of access issues, it really becomes difficult. I do experience this during the COVID-19. It saves a lot of life for people where they choose to go and live in those tourist areas where they feel like there are no more restrictions and they really live normal COVID. And in this, it is the area that yes, one has to take the risk of going and stay there. Whatever there are a lot of restrictions that no moving, no entertainment, no other thing, but they're really having a very good life because in that, no visitors is coming in, and they're really they're really there. And in this, really, we are really looking forward to see that we keep advocating and with the local NGOs on the grassroots level to see, like of the latest, the best way I think to attract everybody attention is at least to open some feeder roads so that at least when one feel like I want to access that area, you can easily access it without any problem. So I think this is what we are doing. But it is the challenges in Africa. Majority of some of the countries that are really affected because of access. But
Okay.
we'll keep trying to say advocates for more on how we can improve it for the best in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Duku. And I just wanted to comment before we go to Tero. There are many organizations, like for example, the World Heritage Sites. And obviously it's difficult to become a World Heritage Site, but there's all kinds of different levels where if there's a location that has, profound beauty or something that's so unique about it, you can submit an application, and if it gets approved and named as, either some type of, natural reserve, not a natural reserve, but even my neighbor, for example, I was like, okay, my neighbor applied to some association that named her garden some type of I forget what it is. It's some type of nature preserve or something. And the way that she applied was basically she documented that these birds came and nested on her trees every year, and those birds were kind of beautiful and important, and so she got this little designation. This is for this woman's backyard. So now there's so many things that we can do for different things, and it just brings attention. So when someone finds out about this location and say, okay, this location is known as a World Heritage Site or as a nature preserve or as a there's a lot of things that you can apply to be named internationally, and that gives recognition to the area, and that helps governments want to invest in it. Sometimes those applications may come with monies to preserve the beauty of those locations. Tato, please join us.
Okay, thank you. How are you, everybody?
Yes, I can hear you perfectly.
Okay, I'm from Ethiopia. As you know, Ethiopia, it is a very unique country in the world. Yes. Because there are so many types of cultures and also so many types of tangible tourism industries like Lalibela, Aksum, and so on. So nowadays, there are some challenges, especially before 2 years, just during Corona, COVID-19. There are so many challenges. The foreign tourism visitors cannot be entered to the country, and after that, even if there is no peace nowadays, and also there are some problems. Just there is no promotion to the other country. In order to that, there is some challenge in our tourism. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Tato, for sharing that. Yes, I mean, I guess, yeah, I mean, if there's no peace in the area, we can forget, that has to be the first step. Once you have peace in the area, then everything else can come. But yes, thank you so much for sharing that, Tato. And we wish for continued peace for sure. Been too many years with suffering and needless deaths. So, Irena, I know that it's already past the hour, and we're just going through some more questions from the students and doing a little bit of participation. I understand if you can't stay with us for much longer, that's fine. But I do want to give you the chance if you wanted to comment something or if you want to stay with us, that's also great.
Yes, of course, I will stay with you.
Okay.
Yes, I'm really happy to hear all these comments from students. And I see that what concerns most of them are, for example, some problems that are related to the government or infrastructure. So actually, it's something that every country experiences the same problems. Well, especially if we talk about developing countries. So it's something that you really can find your place. If you study tourism, if you finish these studies, if you dedicate so much time of investigating new destinations and in general of studying, then of course you can just participate in some activities, and of course, as Ricardo mentioned, you can maybe ask for some kind of financial grants or for something if you want to open your startup business. But remember that always you need to have, for example, a business plan where you're going to show how much money needs to be invested and what is the revenue. So that is actually this financial analysis. Of course, there are many more other financial analysis that you need to do, but actually you need to show that the investment will be profitable. So actually with the good business plan, I think that you can do a lot for your place wherever you live, even if it's developing country, even you need some financial grants for some road or whatever you need for the attraction. But do the investigation, and really you will be very, very proud of yourself and of your community, because you will see that everyone would like to participate. Everyone wants to do something good for their places. So don't let that to discourage you and to talk always, but we have problems, but we can't do this. There are problems everywhere. I am from Serbia, that is developing country. I lived in Singapore, that is developed country, but really, really one of the most developed countries in the world. So I experienced so many different different environments, and try to use what you have. Try to be innovative, and of course you will see the benefits. But don't let that to discourage you. There is always a way how you can get something. If you have a good idea, it's just a question of time. So sometimes for one project it can be done in 1 month. For some you need to wait a couple of years maybe. But if you really do that thoroughly, I'm sure that you will create some successful business model in the end.
Thank you. And we can go to Charles and then to Richie. Charles.
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening. Great to see you.
My full names are Charles Oduor. I come from Kenya, Nairobi. Although from a different county, but I live and work in Nairobi. In Nairobi, we are mostly known. I think there is a slogan that is common throughout the world. I'm sure you know it. Hakuna Matata.
Yes.
The Swahili term meaning no. It's okay. No trouble.
Don't worry.
Yeah.
Right.
Don't worry. No trouble. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I want to thank Irena for this session. it's really helpful. And I think I also want to pride in the fact that from Nairobi, I think we are one of the countries that are fortunate enough to have a national park within the city. It's just a few kilometers from the city center. And throughout the country, there are various spots that are very attractive to many people and many countries all over the world. But if I come back to today's lesson, it's very informative, and I think for some of us who are looking at maybe setting up something in the future that would border tourism and business and all that, it's very useful, and especially on the areas of modeling. And the reason why I say this, during lockdown, most of the counties in Kenya, everything just went quiet. People, a lot of people just went into the villages. Those who were in the cities were locked in their homes. And then the introduction of working from home technology, I think, did not favor it when it started, but then a lot of us caught up with it and all that. Like in Kisumu, we have a freshwater lake, although it's bordering 3 other East African countries. That is Uganda and Tanzania. And with the devolution and the point I'm arriving at now is we have 47 counties, and that opened up some business opportunities for many guys to go and open up businesses all over the counties. And I want to narrow in on hotels and where tourists would come from domestically or internationally to some of these joints. But then when the lockdown came, the business premises became ghost towns. Very few people would walk in, and some of them even closed. So when Irena talked about the business models and creating the competitive advantage, the reputation, and some other alternative measures that could have been used to ensure income generation, like setting up some of the rooms to become like giving them to offices to other people. That was very, very helpful. And then towards the end, when she was talking about the innovative nature, the transformative nature, the sustainable nature, and the people-centric elements, it made me realize how me as an individual, I can put this together as a business, but at the same time offer solutions to the SDG goals. That example you gave, the example you gave of this hotel having fully solar panel and installing a carbon calculator and all that, I never thought that can be an attraction in tourism. Yeah, thank you so much. This was very helpful.
Thank you so much, Charles. And yeah, that's really the essence of the AIU program, which is open curriculum. It gives you academic freedom. It's based on andragogy. And we encourage you to take the AIU pledge. That's one of the things we're going to discuss tomorrow. That our alumni, what was the result of their pledge, how they have measured their results, have they found their purpose in life? And when you do your studies here at AIU, you have the freedom to kind of say, okay, you know what, I have this idea on tourism. I'm studying business, I'm studying management, I'm studying, some area. it's possible for you to say, okay, you know what, I'm going to take step by step the knowledge, skills, abilities that I need to gather along the way to make my project a reality. Whether it happens to be a project that Irena might inspire you to start, or it might be your own project that you know, or you've identified what your passion in life is. When you feel happiest doing something, if you are lucky enough to discover that, that's what you should be doing every day. And if you're not doing it yet, it's okay. Start setting aside a little bit of your time each day to spend it doing those things that you love. And little by little, those things will become much more powerful and important than whatever else you might be doing just to kind of pay the bills. And so that's kind of the dream, the aspiration of the AIU program, to give you the freedom to do those things. So thank you, Charles. And the last contribution we have is from Richie, unless Irena, you have something to share.
Oh, well, for now, thank you very much for all the comments. I'm really very delighted if I inspired students, and with these examples. Yeah, there are a lot of sustainable hotels that I can say, Charles, that you can just do your own research, and you will see how attractive actually they are for tourists, and of course what's important, that they are sustainable. So this was just one of the smaller hotels in Tenerife, but you can also look for some other big hotel chains, and you can find a lot of ideas. Really, it's really fascinating what they're doing in the hospitality industry and related to sustainability.
Thank you so much. And I posted a link to kind of a research paper that talked about recognition of tourist attraction and what type of impact it had. It's kind of like a long study in case you're curious about it. But like Irena said, it's all about researching the competition, seeing what's available, learning about, once you know that there's tourists for bioluminescent plankton, and then you know that there's tourism for, eclipses. Well, you know that it's limitless, the possibilities. Richie, can you please join us? Thank you for being patient and waiting. Just unmute your microphone if you're still there with us. Richie Adewusi. Okay. Well, I think that's it. Irena, I think it's been a fantastic session. Thank you so much for staying with us and for sharing, this extra time in questions and answers. Thank you, everyone, and especially thank you, Irena, for joining us on multiple occasions.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. And as always, here is my email. So I saw that I answered I answered one student in the chat, but actually, if you just have some idea, or whatever you would like to know more about sustainable tourism, or whatever concern that you have, just feel free to write me.
Thank you so much. I just shared it in the chat, and thank you for being available to our students and for, being open to, collaboration, professional, academic. That's amazing. Thank you so much, Irena.
Thank you. It was my pleasure, as always.